is a basketball party like no other.
There's nothing like it for me. Rivals only Christmas.
Never gets old. This place is rocking.
This is why we do this every March.
The madness is upon us.
It's going down right now.
Welcome back, everybody, to the One Shining podcast, as Will has generously named it for us, because I was kind of slacking on that end. That's on me. I'm not the most creative man on the planet. Will, thankfully, is a lot more creative than me. But we're back with both of us, Matt Childress, Will Wigington. You know him as the owner and the writer, the author of the Louisville Post. We're back. And before we get into any of the nitty-gritty stuff, Will, I want to ask you, how's your week been, man? What you've been up to? What kind of ball you been looking into?
It's actually been a crazy week, honestly. I had, like, no joke, one of the worst days of my life yesterday because of the snow. I got stuck on 3 different occasions and had to leave my car somewhere, and it was just a disaster of a day, but don't need to get into that. Besides that, though, the ball watching has been fun when I'm not watching Louisville. It's been pretty good. Last night, Michigan and Nebraska had a great game. There's been a lot of good basketball on tonight, even though there haven't been any marquee matchups. I think I have Stanford and Miami on in the background right behind me, and that's been a pretty good game. I know TCU's hanging around with Houston right now. Florida's just beating the shit out of South Carolina, so that's not good. But overall, it's been a pretty good week of sports, and yeah, I'm excited for the weekend ahead because there's a lot of good basketball left to be played.
I'm right there with you. Yesterday, it's kind of funny you said that. Yesterday was actually probably my worst day of the year so far as well. I got stuck leaving my own driveway.
Yeah.
I was pulling out, and like most of my driveway is shoveled, but you know there's so much snow that it's kind of blends in with the yard area. So like I didn't realize that I'd pulled like my 2 side tires into the yard, which then just sunk my entire half of my car into like 9 inches of snow. So I ended up being like super late to the studio, and I had to have my stepfather like hook up to my hitch and pull me out, which took like 45 minutes to do. And then moving forward to the end of the day, you know, I get home, everything's cool, we're chilling, and I'm settling in, getting ready to, you know, sit down and kind of watch the basketball for the day. I got to watch the end of Oklahoma and Arkansas, which was a really good ending of that game.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to watch the Kentucky Vanderbilt game, and my dog just starts throwing up profusely.
No.
Just going crazy. And I was just like, there is just no way. I don't know what's going on. So I had to spend like 3 to 5 hours just like cleaning the carpets, cleaning my sheets, cleaning the crate out. Like, I mean, this man was everywhere. It was horrible.
That poor guy. And then poor you for having to clean it up.
Yeah, I felt so bad for the dude. I could tell he was not feeling well. You know, he was doing like the simple dog thing where when they're sick, they look at you the whole time, like expect you to fix it. Oh, it was so sad. But he's feeling good now. He's fine. But no, that was terrible. Thank God Vanderbilt, you know, absolutely put BTA to Kentucky and made me feel a little bit better.
Did you see Mike James' Instagram post?
Yes, I did. We were throwing the L's up, and then that got followed by the in the locker room, like pregame, getting ready to Kentucky posted.
Touch money.
Touch money, don't touch money. Oh my gosh, man, that team. Like, it's weird because as Louisville fans, I don't even know if I can like properly hate watch because both teams are just so mid now. Like,
yeah, sort of. Keep going.
I brought up one of the shows today that have we ever like we've seen Kentucky and Louisville be good at the same time. We've seen them be bad at the same time. We've seen one be good, one be bad. But we've never in our lifetime, at least ours, seen a season where Louisville and Kentucky both are exactly mid in the exact same ways. They beat the crap out of every team they should be beating the crap out of. They handle business when they need to handle business, but they absolutely dog walk, taken behind the shed, BTA by every major tournament-esque team. And to the point where there's questions about eligibility, there's questions about injuries, there's questions are dudes going to come back and play? I don't know what's going on. It led me to believe before the season started, when they were talking about the whole Pat Kelsey, Mark Pope fight over, Tay Kenny, I was sitting here, I was thinking, this felt really staged. Something about it felt off. Like, it was almost too public knowledge.
PR
You know what I mean?
stunt.
Like, yes. And now that all of this stuff has happened and both coaches have kind of like derailed their own fan bases in the exact same ways, I'm completely sold that this theory is a PR. There was a PR stunt at the beginning of the season, and these dudes are just trying not to be the nice guy all the time. But I kind of got derailed there for a second on my own, but it was a good week for college basketball. It was a rough week for the One Shining podcast hosts. It was tough, but we're gonna get into the nitty gritty now. First, I want to start off by going over in our last episode we talked about our Final Four predictions. I'll go ahead and I'll let you have the floor, Bill, because I've already been talking about 5 minutes here on my own. Go ahead and list us who your Final Four predictions are so far, and at least how they're doing within the season at this point.
All right, so a quick refresh, and I will just put a note in this. I do think, because last year there was no Cinderella, everybody was saying, oh, the Cinderella's dead, mid-major basketball is dead because of NIL. I disagree entirely. I'm not going to lie with that. I completely, wholeheartedly disagree with that. I do think that there will be a team that is below a 5 seed that makes the Final Four this year, or a 5 seed or below that makes the Final Four this year.
Okay. I think this is a really good year to do it. There's a lot of disparity in college basketball this year.
Just 2 years ago, NC State as an 11 seed made the Final Four, and then a year before that, you had FAU as a 9 seed, San Diego State as a 5 seed, Miami as a 5 seed, and UConn as a 4 seed, all make the Final Four. That was still during the NIL era. It was not, as omnipresent as it is now and corrupt and scummy, but it was still there. You had to pay for
that was the Creighton year, right? When Creighton lost to SDSU.
That was when the games were at the Yum Center. I wanted to go to that game, I missed it, but I did go to the Alabama-San Diego State game. Great game, great environment. San Diego State's band is cool as shit, by the way. Random thought, but great band, awesome band.
True ball knowledge on the band talk right now.
I know. And then the other game, Creighton versus Princeton. The Creighton fans were so fucking annoying, man. I'm not going to lie. If you're a Creighton fan listening to this podcast, I apologize, but get a Final Four before you talk shit, please. Princeton fans were great. They were just happy to be there. They were having a great time. Another really good game, so awesome experience. I can't wait for tournament games to come back to the Yum Center because I will be there. Doesn't matter who's playing. But I digress. These Final Four teams that I have, I'm not like some guy that just thinks that all 4 of these teams are going to make it because that's just how it works. I'm expecting at least 1 or 2 of these teams to not make it. However, based on my ball knowledge and just how teams that are successful in March are made up, these are the 4 that I've come to the conclusion that I think will make the Final Four or have the best chance at doing so. But I do have that bold prediction. A 5 seed or below will make the Final Four this year. I don't know which conference. I don't know if it's going to be, mid-major or power conference, but it will happen. Anyways, number 1 overall seed, I do have it going to Michigan. I know that they've been kind of wobbly. Well, wobbly, they're still winning all the time, but kind of like we said in the original podcast right before conference play, I was saying that even though I picked Michigan to be the number 1 overall seed, I did think they were going to have some lumps throughout conference play, kind of like Auburn did last season, but ultimately they still had just so many quality wins and by a wide margin that they just had to be the number 1 overall seed. So last night, like we were talking about, Michigan came back against Nebraska, down a couple of players, down a couple starters actually. Nebraska fought their ass off. But Michigan, they're just too talented. Morez Johnson went crazy. Mara just dominated the paint. They're a very well-rounded team. They don't have any grade A top 5 level talent like some other teams like Duke, for example, may have, but they're just so solid across the board, and they don't really have any weaknesses, I don't think, except maybe outside shooting. That'll really knock them in the tournament. I do think that they're probably a lock for at least the Elite 8. Their last 3 games, they handled Indiana at home, handled Ohio State at home, and then almost lost to Nebraska at home. And their next 3 up are at Michigan State, Penn State at home, and at Ohio State. So that at Michigan State game is going to be incredible. That's Friday night. I expect that to be a game that's within 5 points, and I would not be shocked at all if Michigan loses. And Michigan State actually just pulled one out of their ass last night at Rutgers in overtime, if nobody saw that. By the way, the Virginia-Notre Dame game last night, double overtime banger. I don't know if anybody watched that.
I don't understand how the ACC works in basketball or football. Roman and I were talking about this yesterday in this game, and I was like, this is the freest, 9.5 point spread I've ever seen in my life. This is a Notre Dame team that's dead in the water. They look like, at least in their past couple games, they look like they've completely given up on the season.
Yep.
Virginia, I think, could be genuinely like an ACC title contender if they continue to play the way they're playing. And then Notre Dame just puts the hands on them. And it was one of those where, I felt like neither team was playing their best basketball either. It wasn't two heavyweights going at it. It was almost like a battle of mid.
It was a beautifully shitty game, is the way I describe it.
It was. God, I did not like that one. I did not like it at all, unfortunately.
If Senta on Notre Dame has any eligibility, I don't care how much it fucking costs. Get him in a Louisville uniform next season. If he's got a contract, buy it out. That dude's nuts. That's the kind of shooter that Pat Kelsey needs in his system. But anyways, second Final Four contender. I'm going in order of who I think is likeliest to make it to least likely. UConn is up next. They have actually been a bit shakier in conference play than Michigan has. They've had a lot of single-digit games. They've been in battles against Providence. Providence is, I think they're 9-12 now, but they are a really scrappy team.
And they've played some really good teams close.
They have, and I feel bad. Kim English is probably going to get fired, which I do think would be deserved just based on his record, because Providence is a team that should make the tournament most years. But they fight their asses off. They are definitely not disengaged. They still hang tight with everybody. They almost beat UConn last night on the road. And UConn was in a battle against Villanova on Saturday. It was an overtime game. That was a really good game too, but Villanova just shit their pants in overtime. Barely beat Georgetown on the road. So now they're next up. They're playing at Creighton, then Xavier at home, and then at St. John's are their next three. So look at that February 6th game at St. John's as a barometer for where they're going to be in terms of how they played their competition. Is it going to be kind of a thing where they're playing some mid to decent teams and just kind of going through the motions? Or are they going to come out firing like UConn's teams in 2023 and 2024 did against good competition, which means beating the shit out of them? We'll see. So keep an eye on them. The third team is Gonzaga. Obviously, since they're in the West Coast Conference, they don't really have too much competition. They did have a really close game recently against San Francisco on Saturday. They only beat it by 2. I know they had issues with Seattle recently, but that was way back at the beginning of the month, and they won in overtime. And besides that San Francisco game, haven't had many issues. They played Seattle on the road and beat the crap out of them, so that's neither here nor there. Their next three are St. Mary's, Portland, and Oregon State. They play on the road for all three of those games except for St. Mary's. Look for them to kind of run the table, except their next test could be on the road at San Francisco on February 18th. But I do think just with this schedule and how talented Gonzaga is, they might walk into the NCAA tournament with only one loss. So I would think they very well could be the number 2 overall seed, but that doesn't mean that I think they're going to have a better chance at making the Final Four than a team like UConn would. But we'll see. It's all about matchups. Then the last team is one that's kind of been all over the place, really, is Vanderbilt. So since we last talked about them, I think they were 10th in the AP poll when I predicted them to be a Final Four team. And that was right before, actually, they had beaten Alabama at home. So let me just read off these results since that game to you. So they beat Alabama by 6, beat LSU by 11, lost to Texas by 16, lost at home to Florida by 4 in an absolute shootout, lost by 25 at Arkansas, beat Mississippi State by 32 fucking points, and then beat Kentucky at home. Oh, that Mississippi State game was on the road, by the way. And then beat Kentucky by 25, like we were just talking about. So they are really
that game was it a 20-point buffer before halftime. That thing could have gotten to 30, 35. If they really took their foot on the gas, that thing could have gotten out of hand a lot more than it was.
Yeah, I turned on what felt like 10 minutes into the game. It was 38-19. That shit was over immediately. So, and they can just jump on teams, but they're very susceptible at the same time if they have an off night, kind of like an Alabama, to just getting blown out. But the difference between them and us with Louisville is that they can actually beat high-level competition, and they have consistency about them in terms of their productivity. So Vanderbilt is a very streaky team. I think that come tournament time, they will be a sneaky Final Four pick just because of how good they are on offense. But that's the team that I think has the lowest shot of making the Final Four out of my picks because I just don't think the SEC is as good as it was. Not even close to as good as it was last year. And just going to Ken Pom, I need to find Vanderbilt. So they're 12th in Ken Pom. They have the 11th ranked offense and the 15th ranked defense. Their defense in a vacuum is not what I worry about, but their size and their ability to control games with their defense is what I'm concerned with. So they have the recipe to make the Final Four, but they might not, obviously, because not everybody is a guarantee. But yeah, that's kind of... Oh, and the next three upcoming for Vandy. Before I stop, they have a road game at Ole Miss, a home game against Oklahoma, and then a road game at Auburn. So not the toughest of stretches, but, can't take your foot off the gas.
No, I mean, I love this Vandy team. I think it's super fun to watch. I think the most fun part about it is, it's a Mark Byington team. The dude's kind of he's playing with damn much goods out there. This is not a team full of lottery picks. This is not a team full of $22 billion roster. There's talent on it, but it's a lot of dudes that he pieced together from other systems and put it all together, and it's held together by their star point guard in Tyler Tanner. That dude is a freak. That dude can give you 35, but there's also games where he can give you 2. He is... I want to say when I watch him, that is exactly what I want Michael Brown to be. A guy who's primarily, he beats you off the dribble, he goes downhill, and his 3-point shot is the second level. He gets open looks because of how good he is downhill and how great he is at play with using his hands. I mean, this dude is so active on defense. He's not like the best on-ball defender, but he's in every passing lane. He's hounding the on-ball. He's hounding whoever has the ball. He makes the other player uncomfortable, even though he's not the quickest dude with the shiftiest feet, he can't get beat off the dribble. He just makes life difficult for them. And that team in general, I mean, he fits into that system perfectly. That whole team, their whole identity is turnovers. They average 9 steals a game. That's ridiculous. They lead the SEC in steals. They have the SEC steal leader in, what's his name? Something Miles.
Duke Miles.
Duke Miles. Who did he play for last year?
High Point.
We played, yeah. That dude's ridiculous. The team is super physical. They shoot the hell out of the ball. They are one of those teams that, they're like the good streaky teams where, if they get hot in the first game in March, they're going to be hot for the next 4 or 5 games. But it's getting hot at the right time.
I want to ask you a question. So, I think you were just about to say it, but Duke Miles for Vanderbilt, did it not seem like he played for Oklahoma last year in basketball?
I think he did. We played him last year, but I couldn't remember what team he was on.
Every time that they mention him, they say he was from High Point.
I'm like 99% sure we played him last year.
That's what I'm saying. I remember him. Duke Miles. Okay. So they were just kind of skating past. So he transferred from High Point to Oklahoma.
Because you played him in the battle for Atlantis.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. I was like, holy shit, this guy's college career is crazy. Played at Troy for 3 years, High Point 2 years ago, Oklahoma last year, and now Vanderbilt. So this is his 4th team in 6 years. So, yeah, he did play for Oklahoma last year. I knew I wasn't tripping. I was like,
yeah,
he definitely played for Oklahoma, but I'm kind of being gaslit, so I was just going off that. But yes, keep going. I'm sorry. Duke Miles.
But no, it's that's out of all the 4 that you have, that's my favorite pick. That's such a fun team to watch. I've been trying to keep up with them as much as I can. If you're looking for a really good basketball team that probably won't be a 1 seed, that is just going to be really exciting to watch in the tournament, it's going to be Vanderbilt.
If you had to take a guess at what their seed would be right now, prognosticate for me, I would say they're either going to be a low 3 or a high 4. But do you think that they could be in that 2 range? What are you feeling? I don't know what the bracketologists have them at, but that's just my guess.
Let me pull the rest of their schedule up really fast.
Okay.
See what they have left. So they got Ole Miss, then Oklahoma. Oklahoma's pretty scrappy, but Ole Miss should be easy for them. Auburn, that's at Auburn. That'll be tough. They play Tennessee at home. That should be a win for them. They play at Missouri. That should be fine. Besides that, so their only really tough teams I think they play for the rest of the season is going to be that at Auburn game, because, any game at Auburn is tough.
Yep.
At Tennessee, and I think the Georgia game will be tough. So I'm going to predict they probably drop at least 2 of them. So I think they finish SEC play with 4 or 5 losses.
So that would put them at like 26-5 going into the conference tournament. That's probably a 2 seed.
I think that's a 2 seed.
Yeah.
I think that, like, I agree with you that the SEC is nowhere near what it was last year. Like, it almost gives me SEC football vibes, where like it's just a bunch of decent teams beating up on each other and kind of making the other ones look better. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but that's they still probably have 4 to 5 quad 1 opportunities left on their schedule.
Yes.
So that's a good point. They're 18-3, and Ken Palm, they're 12th in the net. They're 12th. So that right now, that is the last 3 seed, and they have a lot of room to move up or down on that. So yeah, they're a very polarizing team in terms of their consistency with wins and losses right now, but I love them. I can't wait to watch them.
That's a resume where in other seasons you could definitely see like an argument for that could be a 1 seed-esque season, but there is so many good teams in college basketball right now that you're thinking, I mean, how are they going to pass up Duke? How are they going to pass up Arizona? How are they going to pass up Michigan?
Yeah.
How are they going to pass up Nebraska? So it's like you kind of get the butt end of the stick of having your best season probably in program history, and then you get a 2 seed.
Yeah. I mean, you have Connecticut and Ken Palm ranked at 13th, and they're 20-1. That's ridiculous depth. So, but that also means that you have a lot of really good teams, but the talent is dispersed, and any team can lose on any day. So,
It's true.
Vandy, I think, has the ability to beat anybody they play in the entire country, but they're also susceptible. So, I hope they succeed, man. I love their team. I really like Mark Byington. I was kind of hoping that we hired him at Louisville back in 2024 after their run in the tournament. They manhandled Wisconsin and got demolished by Duke, but still, Mark Byington has the goods, so I'll be rooting for him going forward.
I will be too. You know, maybe here in the next year or so we have a show we're talking about maybe signing him. So we'll figure it out.
See, man.
But I'm going to go ahead and run through mine real quick. 2 of ours are similar. I'll go ahead and get those 2 out of the way. It's the first one, I'll do it in the same order you did of who I think that had the best chance. And for me, number 1, it's Michigan. They're number 3 in the net. They're number 2 on Ken Palm. For me, this is a team where I know that Arizona is listed higher than them. Obviously, they're higher in the net. They're higher in Ken Palm. But like this resume to me screams a lot better. Arizona is 9 and obviously hasn't been beaten. They're 9-0 in quad 1, 2-0 quad 2, 3-0 quad 3, and 7-0 in quad 4.
That's insane.
The only reason I like Michigan's better. So they are 6-0 in quad 1, but they have 9 quad 2 games played already, and they're 8-1 in those games.
Jeez.
Like when I'm looking down the road, it's going to be to the point where Michigan has a lot of quad 1 wins, or sorry, Arizona has a lot of quad 1 wins, but then it kind of falls off from there. Their competition out of those heavy quad 1 opponents is slim enough, and I feel like Michigan's been more battle tested throughout the season of teams at different levels, teams at different echelons, more tournament-esque teams. So I think Michigan takes that top spot at number 1 overall seed for me. And like you said, I know they haven't played their best basketball of late. I think Nebraska definitely should have won that game the other night against them. They kind of let that one slip again. They scored 50-something points in the first half against one of the best basketball teams in the country.
Yeah, and then only ended up with 72. It was just a brick fest from 3 by both teams in the second half.
I think they shot like 1 for 13 from 3 in the second half or something like that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, if Sanford could have gotten 1 to go, I mean, it just felt like every momentum shot they had to have in the second half, they just couldn't make it.
They couldn't. And stuff like that happens sometimes, especially when you're Nebraska, who, like they're a great team right now. Like they're definitely a Final Four contender. We talked about that before coming on here. But there is a mentality aspect of, you've never been in the situation before. You're playing against a team that everybody is picking to win the national championship, go to a Final Four. There's some nerves down the stretch when it starts getting close, and things like that happen. But they fought, and without their 2 best players playing, that's credit to them. My next one is Arizona. My next one, I think Arizona's a shoe-in for the Final Four. I think they're a shoe-in for a 1 seed. They're number 1 in the net, number 1 in the Ken Palm. I think this is the most balanced team in college basketball. I think that this is the one team that screams matchup nightmare for any team in the country. This team averages 10 10 threes in a game. You know, they don't need to shoot. They pound it in the paint. They're uber physical, but they play clean basketball. They're not just fouling the hell out of you for the fun of it. You know, like they're getting in the paint. They're making you uncomfortable. They are stressing your guards in front court as much as you possibly could as a basketball team. And they're well coached. They're one of the best coached teams in college basketball. It's a team that can score 85 on you if they need to. They can score 65 on you if you need to and beat you both ways. They willingly force you to play Arizona basketball, and when it comes to playing in March, it comes down to who can cement themselves in the game early on, in Arizona every single game this season has done that. My next one, I think third on the list, you already named it, was UConn. This team, before the past 2 weeks of basketball, I thought was competing with Arizona for being that like most balanced team in the country, like most well-rounded, well-coached team in the country. But something that you kind of mentioned already this season, this team plays to their competition extremely. Like they usually win. Like they win those games, they always pull them out. But they've played Providence really close twice. I mean, they played
Georgetown
really close.
They beat DePaul by 12. I mean, come on, it's fucking DePaul. Like,
it's DePaul. This team 2 years ago was actually gambling on their own games and beating Kenny Payne. Beating Kenny Payne accidentally.
Yeah.
They played a Kansas team that didn't have Darren Peterson. They only won by 5 points. Their one like coup de grace for the season is their only loss. Unfortunately, it's at home, but it is to Arizona. So you have.
But they didn't have Terrence Reed that game, so
that's true. So you can take that either way. I think that this team, they're 8th in the net, 13th in KenPom, which is really weird. They're kind of like an opposite of Louisville for me, where like Louisville keeps losing these big time games, but the metrics love them. You know what I mean? Like they're still top 20 in net, top 20 in KenPom.
We're 19th in the net. That makes no sense whatsoever.
I don't get it. UConn is handling business in every game. They're not blasting these teams that they should be blasting, but they're winning them.
Yeah.
And they drop. They're dropping in KenPom. They're dropping in, It's one of those confusing aspects of college basketball where we're getting so analytic now that like it's making almost with more statistics, it's making less sense than when we just used to use bracketology, where it was just Joe Lenardi saying, "Yeah, I mean, I watched it this year. They're about a 3 seed," and then we just went with it. We just went with whatever he said. But my final one on that list, this is my home run hitter at this point. This is the one I feel like has had the least chance, but I think does a chance in Alabama. I think that Alabama has the pieces this season to be a Final Four contender. Like we've seen them when they don't even have to be on an egregious on shooting night. When they're just on a little bit, this team will run you out of the gym. They play super fast, they play super physical, but they do succumb to the Nate Oates / Pat Kelsey philosophy of if it's not going in, we're going to keep trying. Like they don't really adjust. But in the past couple games, we've noticed the addition of Bediako. This team's a lot better defensively now. I mean, crazy to think that the old school reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year, he's played in the G League for 3 years, comes back and plays college basketball and is a defensive menace. Like he's completely up their level of play on the defensive end. He has made this team, I feel, at least to me, a lot more consistent in areas that they struggled. Whereas, the Tennessee game wasn't great. Missouri, beat the brakes off them. They play Florida on Sunday, then they play Texas A&M. They play at Auburn and then at Ole Miss. So Texas A&M has been a scrappy team in the SEC this year. They're one of those teams that maybe like in the essence of like out of conference basketball, they're not great, but they're one of those teams that always fights in conference games. They always make it tough. They always muddy it up. These next 4 games, I feel like, just with like when you said with Vanderbilt, we're going to get a real litmus test as to see, 1, will Bediako even still be on the roster? What's going to happen there? 2, will this team basically weather the storm of this bad play they've had of late and kind of get back into win ways, which they were? I think they will. I'm banking that the NCAA just shows no teeth again and Bediako keeps playing and then he pushes them into the tournament. I think this team, they're 21 in the net, 17th in KenPom. Their biggest thing is kind of a similar. It's kind of funny we both pick these teams. They're similar to Vanderbilt in the way that it's just a streaky ass basketball team. Like one day you watch them, they're like, I do not understand how this team with LeBaron and Philon can possibly lose a basketball game. But then the next game, they can't find a shot. They're just forcing up threes. They're giving up the easiest shit in the paint possible. And it's the Nate Oates, Pat Kelsey philosophy. It's one of those where other teams on the country just look at Nate Oates' resume and think, God, man, I wish we could have that guy. Kentucky being one of them. You know, before they got Mark Pope, they were begging for Nate Oates.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on him yet. I need to see him do something. I know he's made a couple Final Fours. I need to see him win the one to show that he can kind of, similar with Pat Kelsey, I need to see that these guys can adjust their philosophy based on who they're playing, not just play the same way over and over and over again to basically the same results. You know, these dudes are maniacs out there when it comes to coaching college basketball. But those are mine. I think that all 8 of these, I mean, we share 2 of them. So I think all of these teams have a really good shot, especially with the way they've been trending. Vanderbilt, I was worried about yours for the last week. The little 3-game skid there, I was like, okay, maybe Mark Byington needs these guys together. But I mean, going out, you know, handling business the last 2 games, I think they're back. I think they're good. You know, every team is overdue for a little bit of a skid here and there.
Hey, when Louisville won the national championship, they lost 3 in a row. And then won 16 straight the rest of the way.
That's true.
It can be done.
One of those was a 5 overtime game to Notre Dame.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. And then one was to Villanova, who was an 8 seed, and then Georgetown, who was a 2, but they lost to Dunk City in the first round. So
that's just the history of Rick Pitino. I mean, the year before that, the end of the season, we couldn't score more than like 45 points in a game, and then they go to the Final Four.
Lost to USF at home on senior night, then go out and win the Big East championship, and then make a Final Four. So
I know.
College basketball is weird. Is the bottom line to that. So,
but we kind of spent a lot more time on that than I thought we would have. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next piece here, and I kind of already alluded to one of my picks, but it's Charles Bediako himself and the news that's come out as of this week. So everybody that watches college basketball knows that this man is technically eligible. I think they extended him 10 more days because of the whole issues with his court case and stuff like that and the weather issues and whatever. But the news that come out of recent was that the judge who basically surpassed the NCAA saying this guy is eligible. He can play. Screw you guys. We don't care what you say. This guy's playing. He is the name. What is this? James H. Roberts. This man is a booster for Alabama. And the thing that kills me is nobody looked into this at all, thinking, hey, we're using a judge from Tuscaloosa, one of the most culty-esque fan-based states, like Alabama states in the country, whereas you look down your street, this neighbor's an Alabama fan, this neighbor is an Auburn fan, they all have, you know, their way, they all have their favorites. You don't even do any background check at all. You don't think to look of where this guy went to school, where this guy did this, where this guy's favorites at. The man has literal receipts of donating to the university, and they didn't figure this out until he was deemed eligible. So, I just want to get your take on this, Will. Is this at fault of the NCAA for not looking into this, or is this his own fault for even not recusing himself earlier?
You know, I actually think this is a bit simpler of a situation than people are making it out to be. I think that regardless of the judge's status of who it went to, that he was probably going to be deemed eligible. The NCAA, it's not on them right now to basically determine eligibility. I know they like to think that they have a handle on that, but every player that's deemed ineligible by the NCAA is getting taken to court and it's getting reversed. So what that tells me is that even if this court case is sent to another judge after this guy has recused himself and the appeal has been appealed, that he's probably still going to be deemed eligible for the rest of this season. And I think regardless of whether or not he is eligible for the remainder of the year, is that the federal government is going to have to step in and determine athletics eligibility moving forward, because right now it's a major issue. I do think that NIL and the transfer portal are mostly positive developments for the sport. However, and rev sharing. However, there is an abuse of it. With no rules, why wouldn't you do it? Abuse it as much as you possibly can while you can. That is what you're supposed to do. Who fucking cares about ethics? Tom Izzo can complain all he wants, but now he's starting to have to do it as well. Because he knows that to survive, you have to adapt, like these coaches are. They don't like it, but they're doing what they have to do. So I do think that this whole Bediako case, it's gotten a little bit more press than others just because Bediako is a good player. I mean, hell, when I was talking about the games that I watched at the Yum Center in the tournament in 2023, he played. He was on that Sweet 16 number 1 overall seed Alabama team. So it's ridiculous. But I think it's a watershed moment to an extent. I think several of these cases have led to being a watershed moment to where Congress is going to have to step in and create codified legislation that determines eligibility, and you don't need to take it to a bunch of different judges who can arbitrarily decide eligibility based on a myriad of factors. So, yeah, basically the bottom line is I think Bediako, even if that case gets sent to another judge, will probably be eligible. If he's not, I don't care. If he is, I don't really care. I don't think that the outcome of this specific case is going to be a tell for what happens moving forward. I just think that after this season, then you'll see some changes being made to the sport. But for this year, teams are going to do whatever they can. And, Nate Oates, he did what he needed to. They lost Mo Diabate to UK. He kind of brings them what Diabate did and a bit more defensively, in my opinion. So, got to do what you got to do.
One more question for you on this topic. Do you think that when we look back at all of the changes that we've seen be made, whether it's in college basketball, college football, just college sports in general, there's always been like a statement case. There's always been like the one where like, hey, we got you, and that's our example. That's who we made the example of. One, Louisville was made the example in 2013. That was the one where the NCAA has done nothing to any team since then. They refuse to do that. They just feel like, hey, but we did that one Louisville team back then. You guys need to obey us because we could do this in the future. And then we've seen that teams with UNC and skipping, going to literal fake classes, Michigan genuinely cheating in football on field. They just show no teeth. They show no effort to actually enforce any of these rules that they're enforce the fear they're trying to instill in these universities. Do you think that in this season we will see one of those flagship cases that the NCAA finally brings Congress or the government in to make a statement out of? Or do you think right now we don't see that until further down the road?
I do think you'll see it in the offseason. And it's going to be two things, actually. One, it's kind of ironic what I'm about to say, is that the NCAA is going to gain some power back but lose almost all of it at the same time. And what I mean by that is that on the surface, they're going to have some more power in terms of enforcing eligibility because there are set standards to that every university has to adhere to. But as a body that levies punishments or acts as, some sort of all-present dictatorship over the universities, that's just not ever going to be the case anymore. It's kind of died already, and it will continue to die, even if the federal government gives them back some control, because they're basically crying and begging and pleading for Congress to help them. And if Congress helps them, it's not going to be the universities that answer to the NCAA anymore. It's to the federal government, or at least to state government. So the NCAA, while getting that perceived control back, will not have it at all. It's going to be to a different body than their own. So they're just going to be sort of a middleman moving forward, in my opinion. And yeah, I'm actually glad for that because the NCAA is a washed up, has-been organization that has no credibility anymore, no consistency. Their bylaws, they don't even follow. So
it's crazy what happens when your business model is based on benefiting from student athletes who don't get paid any money, and then now they get paid money, and now you just have no teeth. You have nothing you can do anymore.
You can't abuse student athletes anymore. The power is completely stripped from them, and I think that's forever going to be the case. And the reason they couldn't punish Michigan is because they have basically zero control over football. If they had tried to impose punishments on Michigan, it would not have gone over well. You can do it to a team like Louisville in basketball. Louisville might have the last laugh in the long run. We'll probably get our banner back soon enough. But they at least had the ability at that time to show some muscle.
Yeah.
They don't have that muscle anymore. So this Bediako case is getting a lot of press right now. I'm not really paying it too much mind. I think it's just going to be another drop in the bucket of evidence for Congress to use when they make this legislation coming up, probably in the next 6 months to a year, I would say.
I mean, I agree with you. We're kind of at the point where I feel like we've used the phrase Pandora's box like 100 times in the past, at least in this college basketball season in general.
Yep.
It's only getting worse and worse, and eventually, you're right, I think the government will step in, Congress will step in and make some changes and kind of force their hand at this point. And the thing is I think the only repercussion from that is the chances of, the conversation we've had of the conference realignment and the super conferences and this and that, where it's like, okay, well, we don't agree with anything the NCAA wants us to do, so we're just going to completely disband like football, and we're going to have one giant conference, and we're just going to all play each other, and we're going to have our own national championship. And then at that point, then all hell is broken loose. We're just playing semi-professional basketball at that point. It doesn't matter. There's nothing to do with the universities anymore. And that's the only thing about bringing the government, getting them involved, that does worry me, is where does that go? Because I don't think that the honest human being can just have the thought process of, okay, government here, everything good now. That's just not how it's going to go. Somebody's going to want to fight back. And I think that there's going to be once the one domino falls and a school wants to fight back, the rest go with it. So we'll have to see. I do agree with you. I think that will be an off-season thing. I think we're going to get through the 2025-2026 season and then kind of see where it goes from there.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say one quick thing, and that's the last thing I had to say about it. I totally agree with you. There's going to be a lot of push and pull with the legislation whenever it does come about. You're going to see still probably a lot of lawsuits, but those are going to be directed to federal courts, and the process will likely be a bit different, and it'll be slower, probably intentionally so, to prevent these teams from trying to pack their rosters with European pros or G League pros. So it's going to be different, but that doesn't mean that this stuff still won't happen sometimes or won't be attempted, basically.
I think you're 100% right. I think that it's going to be a long, drawn-out process no matter what, and we're just going to have to hold on for the ride and then pray that, our beloved college basketball comes out on top once again. And it's there might be dim days in the future for NCAA college basketball. We'll have to see what happens. But we've already kind of run over what we plan to go through, so we'll go ahead and get to the final part here where we've kind of talked beforehand, so we're going to look at some of the college basketball games this week that we are excited for. Will, I'll go ahead and let you start off. Go ahead and give me one or two that you're really excited for this week.
So the first one is Michigan at Michigan State, which I talked about earlier when discussing Michigan. So they're playing on the road. They are 1.5-point favorites, actually, at Michigan State. I do think that both teams match up pretty well against each other. There's going to be a lot of defense played in this game, but I do think the Michigan State size will allow them to stay in the game and mitigate Michigan's ability to shoot from the outside. So this game's going to be played mostly from inside the perimeter. And I think that benefits Michigan State at home more than it does Michigan. So I'm actually going to say that Michigan State wins this game narrowly. I'll just give out a score right now. I'll say 70-67. Michigan State wins. So
I like that.
Do you want to switch off, or do you want to go over that one real quick?
I can just give my pick for it really quick. I am with you on that one. I think that Michigan State does pull that game out. This is like the most Tom Izzo Michigan State team of all time. Like, nothing on paper tells me this team is any good. You know what I mean? Like, they're 124th in points per game. They're 127th in free throw percentage. They're 55th in field goal percentage. They're 94th in 3-point percentage. They're 16th in assists. That's their best stat. They're 229th in turnover per game, like turnovers per game. This is one of those ones where it's like the comic meme of like, he can't keep getting away with it. Like, how does Tom Izzo do this? And that's why I think Michigan State is so frustrating. But I think that their size is going to match up and cause some uncomfortability for Michigan. This is obviously a big rivalry game. It's in Michigan State. It's a home game for them. I think I kind of like the 1.5 here, so maybe like if they don't win, I might take the point there. I think it will be a really close game, but I think Michigan wins this game. But moving on to the next one, Saturday, 4:30 p.m. It's gonna be on ESPN. This is BYU and Kansas. This one for me, both of these teams, I think BYU has looked really good as of late. I think that this is a team that's getting better week in and week out. I didn't really believe in them early on. I kind of felt like it was just like the AJ DeBonsa show, and he was just kind of showing out for a lottery pick. Now this team is really getting a click. They're really finding their groove, and I feel like this is a genuine team that could be like a sneaky 3 or 4 seed to kind of get into the Final Four if possible. But for me, this is a big game. I feel like Kansas, this is their big litmus test for the rest of the season. This is the one where, like, I can't tell if this team's any good or not. Now, does Darren Peterson play? I don't even know. This guy decides if he wants to play 24 hours before, 48 hours before, whatever one. Basically, is running the show over there over himself. He might be cleared. I know that he was out their last game, I think. So I don't know for sure offhand if he's playing, but
he's playing against AJ DeBonsa. He's playing.
Okay, that's what I figured. But this game is at Kansas. I think that Allen Fieldhouse is going to be rocking. I saw a video where there were people camping out for it already yesterday or today or whatever it was. This is one where, I kind of like Kansas in this game for the sole fact of like the size and physicality they play with. BYU kind of plays that more fast-paced, twitchy, like it's a lot of what you see from AJ DeBonsa is kind of what you see across the court. It's a high shooting team. They're really good swinging the ball. They're really good, playing together, playing through their own set offense. Kansas is more like pound it down into you. Get Darren Peterson to drop 32 if we can. They're super physical. This one is going to be my final decision if I believe Kansas is a good team or not. I think they're a good team. I don't know if they're a great team. If they can pull this one off, I think they'll be a great team.
I hear you. I actually think that this is a good matchup for Kansas, and you kind of brought it up, is that Kansas does have the size. Flory Badunga's a great big man. I think he can wall up in the paint against DeBonsa. I don't think they're going to have him guarding him, obviously, because DeBonsa's ability to create off the bounce, whether it's on the perimeter or in the mid-range, it's too much, and it takes Badunga out of the paint. But they do have the size that can match up with I always mix it up. It's either Keita Keba or Keba Keita. I think it's Keba Keita, the big man for BYU, but he's really good, solid at least. Bryson Tiller for Kansas is another huge body that they can utilize.
I still can't get over the fact that a freshman named Bryson Tiller didn't come to U of L. I can't.
It's annoying. But Kansas, they have the dudes. They have Darren Peterson. Trey White's been playing incredibly well for them this year. Melvin Council's really good. He's a microwave scorer. When he gets hot, he's really dangerous. So, and your role players tend to play better at home than they do on the road. Allen Fieldhouse, kind of like you mentioned, it's going to be on fucking fire. I've been in that building before, not for a game, but in the building, and it's got that magic to it, man. And BYU is a really good team. Kansas has ripped off 4 wins in a row. I think they're going to continue their momentum. I'll take Kansas as a slight win. BYU will have lost 2 in a row at that point, but I'm going to say Kansas, they're going to win 78-74.
I don't mind that. I am going to go opposite you, though. I'm taking BYU at this one. I think that Kansas, for me, I'm not sold on them this year. I'm fully on the whole, like, Bill Self is the Coach Cal of Kansas at this point. Maybe his time has kind of just run out. Eventually you kind of need to make a change. Yeah, he's getting you the tournament. He's getting you some success here and there. But I think there's little gas left in the tank, and I think that BYU is going to fully hit the Cars 3 like Lightning McQueen is fading fast, and then Jackson Storm's going to take this one by storm.
Interesting.
What's the next one on the docket for you, Will?
Kentucky at Arkansas, like we talked about. So this is really for the storylines, not for the quality of basketball, if I'm being real. I am excited for Kentucky to go at Arkansas. I think that crowd's going to be unhinged, just like it was last year at Rupp Arena for Cal. It's going to be a little bit different because it's not Cal going back to his previous school, but there is another level of animosity between the teams now. I think Arkansas matches up really well with UK because UK, they need a team to play against that doesn't have a lot of offensive talent. But the thing is, Arkansas has a good amount of offensive talent and a lot of size. They match up with Kentucky so well across the board in terms of just straight body height and weight. And I think they're going to beat the shit out of them. So I'm going to say 85-67 Arkansas wins, and Kentucky fans are feeling even worse about their current state of affairs.
This is one I can't disagree with you in any way. This is one where last season we discussed it already. Arkansas just looked like the Kentucky fans actually felt like they won the whole, Coach Cal is out, Mark Pope is in kind of thing. Like, 1-6 Arkansas, you're going to come into Rupp Arena and think you're going to get a win, no way. And then they put the pulse on them. And I think this year is going to be, I think it has the potential to get worse. I think it has the potential to get uglier. This Arkansas team is sneaky SEC regular season champion, ACC tournament champion to me. I think they have the talent. I think Darius Acuff is good enough to beat this Kentucky team almost on his own. Then you got to go through, like, they're looking, Kentucky's looking, who's going to match up with a dude like Trayvon Brazile? Like, this super hyper athletic, super lengthy guy. If you're telling me that they're going to put Brandon Garrison on this dude or Malachi Moreno on this dude, I think you're high.
It's probably Diabate is their best bet.
It has to be. The only thing about Diabate for me is this guy just, like, lets his emotions get to him way too early.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like once he gets beat 2 or 3 times, he's already screaming, he's already crying, he's already throwing his arms up, and he's kind of checked out for the game. The one thing with this Kentucky team that really frustrates me is that Malachi Moreno genuinely has, like, NBA-level talent. I think that he is a great big man. He's 7 foot. He's really well filled out. Like, I mean, the dude, but doesn't use his weight at all.
Yep.
Like, he looks like a less efficient Sananda Fru out there. And, like, he loves, to go for the easy lay-in. He loves to use his feet. He loves to use his hands. But anytime any big man just kind of just throws his weight around a little bit, Malachi just kind of gets out of the way. Or just lets him bully him over and over. I'm like, dude, you're like 230-something pounds.
Yeah.
Fight back. And I don't know if that's maybe a history of this season. He's gotten into foul trouble early in a bunch of games and this and that. Maybe that has something to do with it. But, I mean, he is a freshman. I completely get it. Maybe he'll toughen up here in the offseason. But, gosh, like, the softness out of that guy, actually, like, even as a little fan, I'll watch it and it frustrates me. It's like, dude, you have this ability, please. It's like watching the old head take or like the short guy take is like, if I was 6'5", I would just dunk it all the time. You know, like that's, who knows what's going on in Malachi's head, but that's how I feel talking about this. But no, I'm right there with you. I think Arkansas wins this one by 15 plus, if maybe more than that easily. That arena at this point has become lethal for teams coming into it. I know they had their history of, like, not filling out the stadium, not filling out this and that, but that place is going to be packed. They know that it's going to be a Kentucky team. Cal's going to want that one really bad. Cal, if anything, wakes his teams up for the teams he hates the most. And if he can sit here and spit, Mark Pope is going to be good. Mark Pope is going to be this and that. That man wants to win that game year in and year out. It used to be Louisville. Now it's Kentucky. I think he's going to put the hands on him.
I agree. What's the next one up? I'm on the podcast.
The next one I'm looking at is going to be, you mentioned it earlier, is on Sunday at 1 p.m. It's Alabama at Florida. This is one that is really perfect, I feel like, for both teams at this time of the season where both of these teams desperately need like a signature win at this moment in January. Because, I mean, you see when all the metrics come out, all the analysts come out, whatever team you see in January, that's the team you're going to see in March. That's the team. That's who your basketball team is, who you are in January. We've seen Florida get drastically better in the backcourt these past couple weeks. We've seen Xavier Lee kind of step up. We've seen, why am I blanking on their other guard right now?
Boogie Fland.
Boogie Fland, yeah. They've seen Boogie Fland shoot the hell out of the ball the past couple weeks. Where this dude, I mean, this man couldn't hit the broadside of the barn for the first half of the season. And you looked at Florida and you're thinking, gosh, this is the best front court in the country. Why can they not get it right? Why can Todd Golden not get these guys to just play at their maximum ability? And now they finally are. They're looking better. They're looking like that national champion caliber team you know they can be. And then you have Alabama, who is doing the same thing. They're kind of they're bringing dudes like Charles Bediako in to up their defense. They're trying to play more efficiently. They're not trying to rely on their backcourt as much. They're trying to be more physical in the paint. So it's going to be interesting to watch how these two teams play and how they counteract each other. One being one with heavy guard play, one with heavy front court play. I think if you're looking at both of these teams, and my hot take for this, at the height of what they can possibly be, one of these teams makes an Elite Eight, and it's whoever wins this game. Whoever wins this game cements themselves in the SEC and uses this really as pushes them into the forefront of college basketball heading into March. And I think it's either going to be Alabama or Florida, and it's the winner of this match on Sunday night. I'm going to say, my pick, I'm going to say Florida wins this. Even though I have Alabama in the Final Four, I'm going to say Florida wins this. I'm going to say it's 82-76.
I'm going to go a bit different in terms of the score. I agree with pretty much every point you made, so I'm not even going to talk much about it. I do think that there's still going to be a lot of offense in this game just because Alabama will still be able to get theirs against Florida. Like Boogie Flan, Xavier Lee, I can't remember the other guy's name. The other guard for Florida that's the shooter, the European dude. None of them can guard shit. Alabama's...
You're talking about... No, not...
It's like
Klobuchar,
Kluchar, something like that. But
Urban Clavazar.
Yeah, Klobuchar. That's how it's pronounced. I remember now.
Is that okay?
Yep. So he's a great shooter. None of either team's guards can play any defense, so it's going to be a lights out game. I agree. I think Florida's going to win. I'm going to say 100-94. I'm
you think
it's going to be a fucking shootout, I think.
Okay.
So
I like that.
It's going to be fun basketball to watch. And yeah, I agree. I think that Florida, just their overall roster makeup probably gives them a better chance at going deeper in the tournament, but I would not be surprised at all if Alabama advances farther than they do. So we'll see. And then the last game that we're going to talk about is Illinois. This is on Sunday. Illinois at Nebraska. So number 9 at number 5. Illinois just coming off their big road win against Purdue, who's lost 3 in a row now. Playing at Nebraska, who's a bit injured. Hopefully they'll be healthy for that game, but they're still 20-1. I think that's going to be a great Big Ten game. I do think that the offensive level will be a bit higher for Nebraska this time around. Illinois, they're a wagon when they're on. But for the most part, I don't think they're that great of a road team. They caught Purdue at the right time, I would say. And it took a 40-point game from their star freshman to just barely beat them on the road. So I do think Illinois can definitely win this game. But I'm going to take Nebraska. I'm going to say they're going to win 81-75. Nebraska takes it.
I'm going to be right there with you. I'm taking Nebraska ball all day. After what I've seen this season, I'm fully bought into this team. I'm riding these dudes like I'm riding Vanderbilt as well. This is just such a fun team to watch play because they just look like it's just ethical hoops. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like like if you look at this team on, it is like if you look at this team on paper, I have genuinely no idea. If I were to look at this roster in the preseason, I'm thinking this team is, they're going to be good. They'll be fine, whatever. But 20-1, they completely exceeded expectations. They're fighting like hell on every single major game they can possibly play in. They took Michigan to the woodshed in a full half and then kind of just choked it up at the end. That things happens like that. I'm going to go kind of with what you do with Florida. I think this is their get-back game. They saw how they finished the second half against Michigan, shooting 1 for 13 from beyond the arc. I think they lighted up this game. I think this is their. We want another top 10 opponent. We want another top 10 opportunity. We want to bolster that resume even more. We want to push for a genuine 1 seed as Nebraska basketball team. I think this game's going to be really high scoring. I'm going to say Nebraska really turns it on. I'm going to say they win 95-85. I'm going to say that they kind of run them out the gym.
All right. Looking forward to it. Great back half of the week of basketball, honestly. I'm really looking forward to it, and next time we have the pod, we'll definitely check in on the results of those games. But yeah, before we head out, do you have any more thoughts besides U of L needing to get a win this Saturday against SMU?
I mean, I'm the guy that I hate to say games are must wins. You know, like when you have a team as talented as Louisville's is, no game is really a must win unless it's in dire need. But if you were as close to a must win game as possible, SMU at home on Saturday is as close as you can get. And if you don't win that game, I know you have a really favorable stretch coming down these next 5 or 6 games you can kind of get right. You really need to go at least 5. I think you need to go 4-0 in these next 4 easily. I think that you really need to gain some momentum here. You really need to get towards the mid-February area before you're even thinking about a game we might drop. I think they can. I think they can do it. We saw it against Virginia Tech. That's a genuine, bona fide, possible tournament team. And, they played against a Virginia Tech team that made 16 threes in one game, and they beat them by 14 points. That's not something... I saw a stat after that game. That had only happened 3 times in NCAA basketball history that a team had given up 15 or more threes and won by more than 10 points.
Yeah, and it hadn't happened in 20 years, I don't think.
Yeah, and it was the only time that ever happened in an ACC conference play. So, that, you can see the flashes of what this team can be and what they should be. I am on the edge right now. This team is still learning how to play with Michael Brown again. They had a full month of basketball where they had to learn to play without him. It's going to be tough, and I think that SMU is a great basketball team, but I'm gonna say they win that game. I'm gonna say they win it 91-87.
Yeah, quick thoughts from me on U of L. I said on the radio last week that I thought U of L would finish the regular season 22-9. They would lose to Duke. They would lose at SMU, at North Carolina, and at Clemson. Every other game I think they win. So that means they need to rip off 5 straight. SMU, I just checked, they're 32nd in the net. So this is right on the precipice of a quad 1 win at home, but it's well within a quad 1 range win on the road. So SMU's quad 2, Notre Dame's quad 2. Wake is probably a quad 2 now. They're dog shit. NC State's quad 2. Baylor's probably quad 2. So your last quad 1 opportunities are at SMU, at UNC, at Clemson, and at Miami. So you have 4 at least. You might get SMU as a 5th at home. So you can't, for U of L with their metrics, you can't have any more quad 2 losses. UK just dropped to a quad 2 win today after their loss. So gotta start stacking some wins. So I agree with all your points. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, U of L right now is irrelevant in the national conversation. So we'll see if we can get back there.
Yeah, you're unfortunately right. We are irrelevant once again. Yep. But it was fun, Will. I appreciate you for coming in, doing this with us, and getting to do this together. I know we had to take the week off. We both had some pretty hectic schedules last week. But
and then the weather.
Hopefully, and the weather, yeah, that didn't help anybody else out. I hope that, that goes pretty well for us down the road. But this has been the One Shining Podcast, and we hope to see you back again next week. Thanks a lot, guys. Go Cards.
Go Cards.
For the championship matchup. Unreal. Louisville to take the lead. There's the lob to Siva. Louisville completes the emotional journey to the championship.